Okay, live. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Stephen. How you doing?
Yeah, really well. How are you?
Yeah, good, very good. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you so much for joining me. Really grateful. So, where are you working from today? Home or the office?
Yeah, I've been really since lockdown. I've been working from home, and we've set ourselves up completely. So we've got voice over IP phones, got direct connection into a server, and I've got a nice study at home, so I can basically get my head down and enjoy a lot of peace and quiet. So yeah, I've not really gone back to the office to work. Obviously, yeah, I pop in every so often, but we do Zoom meetings a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's working really well, really good. I
That's
enjoy
good.
it.
I'm sure you do. Have you got used to it though?
Yeah, I have. It's kind of when you haven't got the sort of hustle and bustle. Sorry, it's my doorbell going. When you haven't got sort of people rushing around you all the time, it takes that quiet takes a bit of getting used to. But yeah, I think now going back into a busy office environment might be a bit of a struggle. You know, it's well, we're fortunate we've got quite a nice big office building over 3 floors. We've got a lot of space to escape. But yeah, I do miss. I think I do miss being around people. But on one hand, on the other hand, I think it's yeah, I can really crack on and get my head down and get twice as much done usually.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's good.
I seem to be a lot more productive as well. So, hi, Pierce. Thanks very much for watching. Very grateful. So, Rob, thanks very much for joining today. Really appreciate your time. You can blame James DePavey because he sings your praises very, very highly. So, for everyone watching now or on replay,
I'll pay him his 50 quid afterwards. All right.
is he related in any way?
No, well, not that I'm aware of. So.
Fair enough. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who's Rob? What are Helmores and how long you've been going for and how you got into agency. And then I'd love to discuss, you were kind enough to share with me a video that you've done, which I think is absolutely exceptional. So I'd like to discuss with you your video, your Facebook, your Google strategy. And it seems like you're working a lot more on your business rather than in your business, so getting a lot more done. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Rob.
Yeah, of course. Well, I suppose it might be easier if I tell you a bit about Helmores first, because I'm quite a late comer in terms of Helmores.
Okay.
So winding the clock back a good many years to 1699, and the business was started by a guy called William Helmore. And he was based in a little village between Crediton, where we are now, and Exeter, right in the heart of mid-Devon. It's a beautiful place to live and work. We found a record of William Helmore having dealt with the sale of 2 farm workers' cottages near Newton St. Size. And that's the very first record we found. So it probably does go back a bit earlier than that, but so hence the since 1699. So then there was a whole string of Helmores. So the business was passed down father to son for many years. They moved then to Crediton in the 1870s sometime. And the Helmore at that time was a guy called Frederick John Helmore. He was very well known locally for furniture auctions. And even in my early years at Helmore's, I remember the older generation saying, "Oh, I remember, more Mr. Helmore," and they have very fond memories of the guy. His son, Bert, took over from him. And after the war, my grandfather joined Bert in the business, became a partner. Bert died in 1965. That was it. That was the end of the Helmore family. There was no other sons for it to go on. So it had gone from 1699 to 1965, all in the same family, generations. And that arrives in my family. So then my grandfather, my father, and my uncle ran the business. My grandfather retired in the mid-70s, and I joined the firm in 1990. So I left school, and you know what it is when you're 16, 17, doesn't everyone want to be a rock star? I mean, that's what I wanted to be. I played in the school. I was in a school band and drums and guitar and all the rest of it. And I thought, I'm going to be the next Phil Collins. That's what I want to do, music industry. So when I left school, I then worked. I thought I'm going to get a job in a musical instrument shop, which I did. And then I kind of quickly realized that it's not all the glamour and, it's actually bloody hard work. So there was an opening then that came, this is back in 1990. So there was an opening that came up with Helmores when somebody had departed. And I thought, you know what, I had the opportunity to give it a go. So yeah, I'll try. And it was bizarre because it was kind of like, as soon as I started, it was like putting on an old comfy jumper and a pair of slippers. I kind of fell into it, and it was like, do you know what, I really know this, it suits me. I've grown up with my grandfather and my father just talking property, and so I almost had this head start as an 18-year-old. You're always learning, but I knew a hell of a lot more than anyone else at that age starting. So it kind of, I loved it, and I still love it. And from that moment, I sort of really didn't look back. So I did the sort of first 10 years, as you do, you start from the very bottom, from putting up for sale boards to going out and doing viewings, to collecting rent, to counting meter money, then negotiating sales and working up. And then in 2000, I bought out my predecessors. And then so I've sort of taken it on from there for the last 20 years. Aside from having one partner, which he's now no longer there, we've sort of parted ways. So it's kind of just really been me and the team. So that's a sort of very brief potted history.
Wow. Well, let's just say
I've gone from the very, the very basics, learning the very basics, right up to, I've probably listing properties for 20 years of my life, and that's what I really love doing.
Fantastic. Well, we'll come on to your presentation and your marketing, because they're absolutely superb in a second. Just want to say hello to a few people. There's somebody called Lauren. Do you know a Lauren?
Oh, possibly, yes. That's Mrs.
Welcome, Mrs. Give your partner loads of love and hearts and shares.
She's 8 months pregnant at the moment, so we're one more month till D-Day. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Exciting times. And hi, Michelle. Thanks very much for joining. Appreciate it. So please give Rob some likes, some shares, some loving. So I just want to come back on some of the points that you made, and it's a fascinating story and loads of history. So was there pressure coming in and, working for your grandfather and your father and your uncle?
No, never. There was no pressure from them to actually join the firm. It was something, I think, it was just the timing of it. Late 80s, early 90s, we were coming out of, the boom of 1988, followed by the crash. So we'd come out of that. So 1990 onwards was a very, very difficult market. There was no pressure from them to join. However, because there's such a long history, I have always felt a lot of pressure to ensure the security of the business, if you like. I kind of almost feel a bit of a custodian, if that makes sense. So, it's like, it's not going down on my watch, so I have literally done everything possible to just make the place as successful as it is.
Fantastic. So let's talk about your marketing. So you've gone out and you do your own editing, your own videos. You took a course on drones. That's a bit of a story as well. I mean, which I can tell you if you like. I mean, it's winding the clock back again. So how it all started with me was right back in 1985. My for Christmas, I had a radio controlled car, and it was a Tamiya Frog. I don't know if anyone who knows anything about radio controlled cars will know Tamiya is a pretty iconic brand, and that really got me hooked into radio control models. And
I mean, it was great. You know, my mates had them and we'd go up and down the street terrorizing all the neighbors, and good times, happy times. But from there, I got into model airplanes, and I'd spend like hours, days building model airplanes in the shed at the bottom of the garden when I was like 16. You know, my mates were out drinking and there's me in the shed building airplanes. A bit sad. But I always had this thing that, wouldn't it be great to actually get a camera in a model airplane and you could do some aerial pictures of houses? But that didn't really happen, just because the technology back then wasn't really available. And I always used to take a bin liner with me, because 9 times out of 10 I'd come back with a crashed aeroplane. So until I learned to fly the thing properly. Then I got into helicopters, and it kind of rekindled my sort of idea of getting a camera on a helicopter to take a photograph of a property. But then again, back then in the 90s, you know, electrical motors and batteries weren't the technology they are now, so they were noisy. Couldn't really do it. You couldn't really fly a model helicopter in Willow Walk. You know, it was like far too dangerous. So so I kind of forgot about that idea, and then I think it was about 2012, 2013, sort of drones caught my eye, and it kind of that idea of, ooh, you know, the aerial photography caught me again, and I thought, well, I wonder if it's worth looking at. So I quickly realized that if you're going to do this seriously, you've got to get insurance and you've got to do it right. So I decided with another local guy, a guy called Adam, who was also into it, we decided to get qualified. This is back in 2013. And I think at the time I was the first estate agent to be qualified as a drone pilot. So we did all the qualifications. It was, I think it's easier now. It was flipping tough back then. After that, I felt I was qualified to fly a 747 almost. You know, it was really in-depth stuff. And then we got our first drone, and I really then got into you know, the aerial photography and the video. So that led us on. Then we entered the Sunday Times Estate Agency of the Year in 2013. A lot of it was geared up to the work we were doing with drones, aerial images, and films. So we won the gold for best single office in the Southwest that year, and then again in 2014, and then again in 2015, which was a terrific result. And yeah, ever since then, you know, drones have been a real staple part of our offering, and aerial imaging, and we can become quite well known for it locally. And yeah, so that's basically, sorry, it's a bit of a long story going right back to 1985 to now, but that's basically how I got into it. I've got, actually, I don't know if you, this is the, I did pick this one up, but this is the sort of my main workhorse, if you like. It's an Inspire, DJI Inspire drones. This is there's no props on it at the moment. Yeah, but that's what I use for most of our shoots.
So from a vendor's point of view, when you go in, presumably it's an instruction winner, makes you different.
Yes.
And how's it held with your fees?
Yes, it definitely is. It's a massive instruction winner. Yes, it definitely helps with fees because we're offering something that nobody else is. Now, it depends as well how, you know, if we really are desperate for instructions, which we're not at the moment, but if we are, you know, you might add it in, value added, to say, okay, well, we'll chuck in a drone shoot. But normally, we would sort of charge an additional fee for that, which I think is fair enough, because it's a service that is really sort of outside of the box. Is not really, you know, part of a normal estate agency offering. But it's nice to be able to have the option to chuck it in if you need to, especially, you know, for us, like £1 million instruction is about generally our limit. Sometimes we'll be a bit over, but that's, you know, not the norm. So if there's something up there that we were thinking we'd really like that on our books, then yes, we'd, you know, like we all would, you know, you do everything you can to, you know, if there's a 15-20 grand fee in it, we're on it.
So then from drones, you went into videos and and making videos and editing it and again learning on it. And I mean, what's interesting is obviously you're working out of a business effectively to work working on your business the whole time to constantly improve it. So how do you find that with your team? You know, presumably you've got a great team, a great culture that you've got. How have you created all that team, that culture, where because there's going to be people watching this thinking, God, Rob's having fun. He's having fun. You know, he's got the most amazing hobby, most amazing passion.
It's hard work putting films together. It's really taxing on your head. And actually, when you're on a shoot as well, it's really tiring because you're sort of running around with there's a gimbal there that a camera sits on, and you know it's physically quite hard work, and there's a lot of rushing around. But sorry, back to your question. Yeah, I mean I've got an amazing team. The Jo, who is our manager, she basically runs the day-to-day office, so she deals with all of that side of things, which means I don't have to, basically. Obviously, I'm still there, and we do weekly, you know, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, check-ins, chats. So I'm, you know, very much on top of the numbers of things. So I don't completely let things go, but just the nitty-gritty day-to-day, you know, instructions that come on the market, viewing follow-up offers, and that I leave them to it, and they're very, very good. And I think they quite like me not breathing down their necks all the time. So, because I can be a bit of a control freak, you know. But I think the reasoning for me positioning myself in the business like that is because I've spent so many, probably 20 years listing, and like a lot of people, it's great, you know. I mean, there was, you know, back in the day, I'd bring in £500,000 worth of fees in a year, which is quite, for Devon, is kind of all right. But when it comes to management, it's just not my thing at all. I would stick my hand up and say I'm a terrible manager. That's not me. I can't do it. I can fly drones. I can make films. I can go and list. I can do everything. But managing people is not me. So I thought, right, well, for me to be able to go and do my thing, I need to get somebody to manage and do it well. So I've got. Hence me having a manager that she's brilliant. So I mean, obviously I'm in a position where I can.
Because what it shows is you're playing to your strengths.
Yes.
You know, and you're getting people in that can run your business. You've got the trust there that they're going to do really well, which is fantastic. They trust you to go and do the fantastic videos that you're making and the editing and the drones. Makes a massive difference. So you obviously created a very good culture there.
Yes, definitely. It's I suppose being hands-on for so many years, that sort of culture has kind of gone in to everybody there. You know, especially Jo, the manager, because she's got very much that same sort of ethos that I have. And it's working really well. The problem we got at the moment is we're just absolutely, which is a lovely problem, but we're absolutely rammed with work. So we're making hay while the sun shines.
So let's talk about your videos. So I posted one of your videos that you shared, 2 lakes, you on a rowing boat, you on I'm sure it was on a tractor, but it looked like a golf cart.
Well, that guy, that's not me. That's George who does. So George is one of the listers. He's a partner in the firm, and he is just very, very natural on camera. And so I've been working with him on films over the last year, 6 months or so, to really bring on his presentation skills. So I'm the guy that does all the camera, I do the drones, I do all the edits. George is the guy out front. And we have a lot of fun, to be fair. It's hard work, but it's an awful lot of fun. And that particular film, we had no idea what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We literally turned up and we knew there was lakes and there was woods and there was this amazing house. And we thought, how the heck are we going to get around all this lot? So this guy had this little Kubota 4-wheel drive thing. And we thought, oh, do you think we could borrow that one? Oh yeah, he said, fine, you crack on. So we thought, well, great, you can shove all the stuff in that, because you've got like armfuls of kit you've got to carry, especially if you're taking a drone as well. So there's loads of it. So I thought, we'll jump in that. And then George had the idea, well, why don't we make that part of the video and just, be a bit of fun and hang the camera out the side, and we'll get some, wheel shots, and we'll really make it part of it, so that you are, you're kind of selling the dream and the lifestyle of the place, and look what the buyer of this place, look what you could be doing. You could be driving around Woodlands in this cracking little buggy and rowing on the lake and sat there fishing, and it's just, yeah, it's lovely. So that's what we did, and we shot that. We were under a bit of time pressure. There's quite a bit of dodgy camera work in there, to be fair, because we were rushing so much, because George had to be somewhere else. We shot it in about 2 hours.
You wouldn't have noticed. And
then it was about a day, probably about a day and a half of editing off and on.
Okay. Well, we're joined by Abigail, so thanks for joining, Abigail. And I know Abigail had a question about whether you do your own editing, or whether you outsource it at all.
I do it all myself. The reason I do it is because I like to have a particular style of edit. So there's a lot of components that are made up in creating a film like that. So you've got the music score, obviously, so it's picking appropriate music, the grade, the color grade, the look of it, and then it's the actual cuts, the edit, and the whole sort of look and feel. And I like going back to me being the control freak. I like to try and have a sort of a similar feel and look to most of the films, and that make it us. It's us. It's our personality. We're not putting out somebody else's work. It is us. It's sort of from the heart. And people say, well, buying a house is an emotional decision. So I thought, well, okay, well, let's bring a bit of emotion into the films. Let's bring in some, make the music score a little bit emotional in places. Let's make the color grade a little bit dreamy and film-like. Let's put some slow motion stuff in there, and and that particular film, we launched it. I've been playing with launch processes and cutting this very short. The portals are the very last thing we do. So we do all other parts of the launch before we go to the portals, including putting films out and on Facebook, in a Facebook group. We pretty well sold that place off that film. I think we had about 24 viewings on, we did 2 open weekends, and it was just absolutely crazy. Everybody was like, oh, can we have a look? Can we have a go in the Kubota? And it really seemed to hit the spot. So, and we now sale agreed it. It's gone over asking price, and
phenomenal. So yeah. The vendor there absolutely love you. Yeah, no, there's a couple more questions. So Mark, thanks very much for joining. Really grateful. So if someone's starting out doing video and wants to do a show round video of a property that is just on their own, is there a camera and gimbal that would allow me to talk to the camera and then switch to the filming the property and then switch back to talking to the camera again, basically a one-man camera gimbal setup? Is that a thing?
Well, the cheapest way, cheapest way to do it is with one of these, which is a phone gimbal. I'll unlock it in a minute. So basically, I don't know if you can see that. This is a DJI, what is it again? It's an DJI Osmo something. But basically, I need to take the case off my phone. But your phone sits in that.
It's authentic. People can see what's really happening.
So there you go. You basically your phone sits in that.
Yeah.
And these are incredible. Like it's like a little mini Steadicam basically. So you can switch between front view and rear view. You can do Facebook Lives. You can do all sorts. In fact, when we do a Facebook Live, we'll always use a phone and a gimbal. And these are about, I don't know, about 150 quid, something like that. But they're brilliant. And you can buy really cheap ones if you want from Amazon. But I quite like the DJI kit because they're the main drone manufacturer. So, and you've got all sorts of different modes on that, like follow modes. You can double click a button and it will put it in selfie mode. But yeah, DJI Osmo is brilliant, really good.
Your question. So Abigail, how did you get good at editing?
Practice. I think when I got into drone flying first, that's really when I got into video editing. So it would have been about 2013, 2014, and all my videos were just drone stuff. We never did any ground level stuff. So then I thought, well, that's boring, just flying around with drones. I'm just self-taught. I've literally I just immersed myself in YouTube videos, basically on creating cinematic videos. I use Premiere Pro CC, which is a great video editing software. It's not the cheapest, but it's very, very good, and it's very deep. I mean, the stuff you can do is insanely good. But no, I'm literally self-taught. Love it. And there's so much content out there on YouTube. It's really good. But my main setup is so this is a Zhiyun crane gimbal, and basically the camera sits on this. I mean, it all folds out. It's quite a heavy piece of kit. So that's my main film camera there, which is a Panasonic GH5. It's a little tiny mirrorless camera, but it shoots at 4K resolution, 25 frames a second. It's really good. Again, it's really deep. You can really get into the settings. I mean, there's whole YouTube videos on how to set these things up if you want like the most cinematic look. It's great. Sorry, does that cover that one?
But what you can see is how passionate your love is of video and filming and editing. I mean, it's brilliant to see. So Michelle, videos are the now, and I'm speaking to many agents about virtual viewings, and they can see the value of their videos and not just a mobile video. It does make a difference, and will aid in increasing fees as they need to increase. Mark, brilliant, thanks. Another Mark, thanks for joining us, Mark. Everton, top of the league. You're a happy fella. We use a gimbal too, but I had an epic fail yesterday and I got some trolls.
Oh no, was that on a Facebook Live?
So Mark, was it Facebook Live? And then Michelle, I know people can be horrible. We all learn from videos, and the next one will be great. Rob is completely geeking out on this. Love it. Mark, love the passion. There you go. So Mark Leonard, someone said that doing Facebook Live videos is better when posting on Facebook rather than recording and then uploading. Would you agree?
Yes, Facebook will push live video much more. So I don't know if you've noticed as well, when somebody goes live, it will, and you're on Facebook, it will ping up in the bottom left-hand corner, Joe Bloggs is live. So yeah, it's good. Live is really good for getting it out there. It's obviously the sort of videos I do, they've got to be pre-recorded because you've got a day or two, sometimes even 2 days of editing. But you can actually pre-record stuff and stream stuff as a live video, which is, I've done that before. So I've gone out, pre-recorded it, and then come back to my office here and then streamed it via something called OBS Studio, which is quite good. So and that will put it out as a Facebook Live, even though it's pre-recorded. Again, YouTube videos on that. But that's quite, if you're a little bit nervous, because I always have this thing like, oh God, if something goes wrong, if I'm out, we're doing a live and a neighbour comes out and says, what are you doing? That's not ideal, is it? And so but it is good. I mean, actually, maybe people do watch it for the mess ups. I I know I would.
Well, Mark's just made me laugh. It was awful, to be fair. New phone and my gimbal didn't work, and someone asked if I filmed on a potato, which
Yeah.
is great. So thank you, Becky. Thanks very much for joining us. So Becky's a new agent down in Dorset, and she started doing loads of videos and Facebook Lives and getting a lot of traction and doing really well. So nice.
Getting sound right is really important as well. So even on Facebook Lives, I invested in a couple of little wireless mics, little Rode mics.
Yeah,
and they make a huge difference. So that's, yeah, if I could give any advice, I'd say get your sound right. Don't rely always on the sound of your phone, because when it's pointing away from you, your voice is a bit muffled. Well, it is on my iPhone anyway, it's a bit muffled, and when it's pointed towards you, it's better. So get a wireless mic or a plug-in mic, plug it in there, and your sound will be consistent and loads better. And get a little, now we're going into the winter, obviously, if you're out there in the wind, get a little, what they call a dead cat, which is a little tiny furry thing, stick it on the mic so it takes away that wind noise. Because I've done it before, I've been out on Facebook Lives and you're there talking away and it's, it sounds like some nuclear explosion going off. It's not just the wind on the mic. And so it's, but get the sound right makes a lot of difference as well, I think.
Brilliant. Mark just said, can you confirm it's OBS Studio N?
OBS Studio.
Studio. Okay.
Yeah. It's a free download. It's quite deep, but if you do some YouTubing on it, there's loads of people that tell you how you can stream via OBS Studio to Facebook. So yeah, it's good. It just takes the pressure off, because when you're recording something live, always in your mind you're thinking, God, is something going to go wrong? Oh God, is someone going to make some comment that, and I think it just gets you much more used to it, and you can have 2 or 3 takes if you want, then, can't you? If you mess it up, it's fine.
Any other tips that you can give on videos?
It's really hard. I found it's very hard to make viewing tours engaging. I like what Chris Watkins does, where he puts himself in front of the camera and says, what I love about this property. I think that's really good. I would say not too much flim flam to start with. Go bang right into your video. When I first started, I was like, all these flashy drone shots and like brilliant, these epic openers. It's like, hang on a minute. People aren't going to the Odeon. They're sat scrolling through Facebook, and they're basically, you've got to do something engaging that will stop them from scrolling past your boring property video. So I would say think about how you start the video. Ideally, you want to start with a real check this out, or whatever you say, and also the thumbnail. This is really important. Get that thumbnail right. If you're posting on YouTube or you're on Facebook, then create a really punchy, fun thumbnail. Like use Trello or one of those if you can't use Photoshop, and put a load of text over it, like beautiful Dartmoor house, and that, I think that ups the engagement as well, because people really kind of get an idea of what they're looking for before they click on it.
Okay, I think I've got you a new follower. This is really great info. Does Rob have a Facebook page we can follow him on?
I do. Shall I post it in the comments?
Yeah, you can post it in the comments. That'd be fantastic. So Facebook and YouTube, so people can get an idea as to the fantastic stuff that you put out there. I'm
trying to build our YouTube audience at the moment, get more subscribers. So
yeah, me too. Subscribe.
I'm not sure I can actually comment here.
Okay, fair enough, but maybe
shall I? I'll fire it over to you afterwards, Stephen. All right. Yeah, we've got a YouTube channel and Facebook. We get the most from, but it's Helmores. You just have a look at Helmores on Facebook and it'll pop up. I've just put one up there this morning. We've just put this really nice place on the market at Chagford, which is right in Dartmoor. And that came directly off the back of another video I did. And they saw that and they thought, oh, wow, we really like that for hours. And Chagford is quite away from our office. It's not really generally an area where we would normally get instructions. So it's really nice seeing, you know, and that's 900 grand, which is quite a lot for around here. So it's nice seeing, you know, new instructions coming in from slightly out of areas where people have seen the vids and they're like, do you know what, we want some of that. We really like that.
Fantastic. So there's going to be people on here that may be fresh to video, that are worried of getting in front of a camera because they've got a face like mine, for radio. Shouldn't be laughing. What advice can you get people to actually just do it and make a start? And there's a lot of people that I suppose, and I can understand, so because I've been the same, that it's what are people thinking about me, and what first impression, and am I filming on a potato, world, whatever it is. How do I just overcome my fear of just doing it?
Well, I share that fear. Honestly, I do. I generally don't go in front of the camera. I'm better than I used to be when I did, and I had a not a very nice experience. But I think it was when we went down into lockdown, and I was taking the dog for a walk, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to shoot a video, and I'm just going to talk about my experiences and talking about, you know, the clapping of the NHS and, you know, how amazing it all was. And I put out this video, and then some idiot, I've no idea it was, sent me this text message, and it wasn't very nice. And I thought, you know what, it really does knock your confidence. But after that, it was like, no, you know, sod it, because it did do quite well on Facebook, and it got loads of likes and engagement. I thought, you know, sod it. I'm going to carry on with this, because, you know, people will put you down, and you will get setbacks, and it really does get you. But it does me. But I think you've just got to, just do it. JDI, just do it. But it is, you are out of your comfort zone, especially if you're doing lives. I think I would suggest don't do lives to start with until you get really comfortable being in front of the camera.
Okay.
And just do it. And you know, I hate seeing myself on camera. Literally, I'm looking at myself now here, and I hate it. It's like, I don't want to see myself. But it is something you do have to get over, if you want to be successful with it. And I've taken more of because George does all the presenting, and he's much more natural at it. I generally use him for my sort of more in-depth films. And I can't, you know, for what I do, I can't be in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time. So I need somebody out there to help me out with it.
I would just add an F into that.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that.
Just JFDI.
Yeah.
Will be my one. Mark, thanks very much for sharing Rob's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Appreciate it. Very kind of you. So thanks a lot. So let's talk about Facebook, and let's talk about Google and PPC. So you're a massive fan on Facebook. You do a lot of different campaigns to try and get new leads.
Yes.
What, if you'll be, you know, really kind, because all your competitors in Devon are now watching this, and they love to know your secret. So would you be kind enough to share, you know, what sort of things that you're doing on Facebook and Google, and what works for you? And if you don't, I totally understand. It's fine.
No, it's fine. No, delighted to. I think if it helps make other agents better, then that's absolutely fine by me. I do a lot of work with Chris Kiriakou. I don't know if you know Chris, but he is a digital marketing god, I think. So I'm a little bit less hands-on with that than I used to be. So I used to do all the Facebook ads. And when I say ads, it's literally, I'm talking about targeted Facebook ads using an AVM tool. And then from that, people going on nurture journeys. So they go onto the valuation tool, and we collect their information. And then they go on a long-term nurture where they are, where I send them a series of just really, really helpful and useful emails, never selling anything at all. It's literally giving all the time. It's free advice, tips, tricks, If they're on the market already, it's how they can maybe improve their marketing. I do this sort of little mini series on Rightmove as well, and how to work with your agent to understand the figures and the click-through rates and all of that. So it's just loads of stuff like that. And not asking for any business. It's literally that. And it's really interesting how people will come back to you, and it's normally many months into their journey. So at the time they put in the what's my house worth, my house worth on Facebook, they're usually not ready to do anything. They're at the very beginning of thinking about it. But 6 months, 9 months, the amount of contact that will come back to me and say, hey, we've been on your, just seen this email, or they'll reply to the one that I've written, so it'll be like, why you need a negotiator, not a salesman, or something like that. And they'll reply to that. So I really found that interesting. Would you come and now have a look at my place? We're now ready. We get a lot of that. So, and then the other thing we do a lot of is Google ads, which I'm going to stick my hand up right now and say Google goes right over my head. So Chris looks after all of that for me.
Yeah.
What I do know is that we are now getting more viewing requests directly from our own website than we do from Rightmove. And we've never had that before. We're getting an insane amount of leads to our website directly from Google Ads. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And it works. So we have quite a big spend on social media and Google advertising every month.
Fantastic. And I love the couple of things that you said, that you're giving them loads of tips, loads of tricks that's going to help them sell their property, even if it's on with another agent.
I genuinely think, if I can help somebody that is on the market with another agent by something that I've helped them with, that is what a result. That's great.
I think there's a massive lesson there, and thank you so much for sharing that. I love this, what you said, so I've written it down. Why you need a negotiator rather than a salesman.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's perfect. That may be quoted on my Facebook tomorrow. Obviously, name checking you for that, but I think you're 100% right. And I think agents don't demonstrate enough that we're all skilled negotiators, and that's what vendors and landlords pay us for. And for somebody to come up with that, I think it's brilliant. And it's just demonstrating it. So that's great. So a couple of final questions, because I'm really grateful for your time. So thank you. So do you have any non-negotiables for you and your team?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I suppose negotiables, I'm quite an open-minded person, and I think non-negotiables are almost a little bit too black and white for me. I have things like, when I was a lister, I was terrible at vendor communication. So I did get a lot better at it towards the end. I was probably a very stereotypical, just list, just go out there and list. And it was almost a drug just to be listing stuff all the time. And it was like, got another one. At the cost of not communicating with vendors. So now, I guess my sort of non-negotiable would be to my guys is that every week there's vendor communication without fail, unless there was a massively good reason to. I think I probably have more unacceptables than non-negotiables. So my unacceptables would be terrible photography. I literally hit the roof. If I see something on our website that's got poor photography, that's coming off right away. It has to be presentation to the market, has to be absolutely spot on. And if it isn't, that's unacceptable. So I suppose that's kind of a non-negotiable. When I see other agents, I don't want to single out the online guys here, because I know some do a really good job, but some of the photography you see on those kinds of agents is literally appalling, and it makes me cringe, and I feel so bad for the seller. I'm like, why don't you sort that? Why can't you see how bad that is? If that was me, I'd be like appalled. So that's my real, I think that's my sort of unacceptables.
Yeah, I was doing some training with an agency, and they told me this story. So there was a property on the market for 200,000 with an agent, been on the market for 12 weeks. There weren't any viewings. They got asked to look at it for a buy-to-let investor. So they went along and they saw it, and they said there's absolutely nothing wrong with this property. It's worth 200,000 every day of the week. But because the photos were so poor and so dark, nobody went to see it. So he said to his to the landlord, well, why don't you make an offer of 180? So they offered 180. They got it accepted, and that agent cost them £20,000 for their biggest asset. You know, and that's scary. And there's no excuses now. You know, we've got the technology, we've got the matter.
Absolutely. We use pro photographers for everything. So as much as anything, because it does help the listers, because doing a set of property photos properly takes time, you know, and it's not just actually shooting the photos, but it's the editing process afterwards, and it's and delivering them to the admin people. So it's and our photographer is pretty well flat out. It's a full-time job for him, pretty well at the moment, anyway. But I agree with what you're saying. I think, you know, when you look at the wider picture of agents' fees, and particularly, again, you know, I go back to the online guys, not all, but some, you know, there's one on the telly that was banging on all the time about commisery, whatever it was. And you think, yeah, okay, but how much are you costing your clients because you've undersold that property because of your poor presentation to the market, your non-existent negotiations, your call center sales progression. You know, it's. And I'm next to, you know, the team.
That's for another day, commisery.
Say again, sorry.
That's for another day, commisery.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
So, one final question: if you were starting off your own agency today,
yes,
knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I think I would never take on an equity partner. I would say that no matter how much of a struggle it is, how much you might need money, do everything you can to overcome that and to do things yourself, because one day you start off with these things brilliantly, but one day you won't agree, you won't see eye to eye. One will want to go that way and one will want to go that way with the business, and that's the end. And that happened to me. Yeah, so that would be my overwhelming advice to anybody is,
brilliant.
You know, if you can, just do everything within your power to not do that. Don't make that.
Rob, you have been a brilliant guest. Thank you so much. So thank you so much for giving up your time. Loved everything you've spoken about: marketing, presentation, drones, videos. Absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much. On Thursday, I'm going to be joined by Pete Wilkinson, who's going to talk all about things time management, 1-year plans, 3-year plans, 5-year plans. Pete is absolutely exceptional, and he works with loads of the top UK estate agents. So please join me at 12:30 on Thursday. Rob, once again, thank you so much. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching, whether you're watching now or whether you're watching on replay. Please like it, please share it, please get the message out. I mean, Rob's given some amazing tips there. You know, please have a look at Rob's Facebook page and YouTube channel, because there's loads of amazing stuff. So Rob, you're a gentleman. Thanks for your time. Everybody else, have a great afternoon. Thank you all.